My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Catacris Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.catacris.com. Our special guest tonight is Burning Rain bass player Brad Lang. How you doing tonight, Brad?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great, and of course, we're interviewing you tonight for our Remembering Ronnie Montrose special. And you played the Ronnie Montrose Remembered concert last week. Could you share with us how you first got involved to take part in the event?
Well, I've known Keith for a long time. Back in my Y&T days, every time we went down and played in LA and so forth, Keith would come out and see us in the Canyon Club, and it seems always him and I would always end up hanging out afterwards. So, it just kind of happened that I did the first show that he put together. That was 3 years ago, so this last Friday was my fourth time playing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of, we had known each other, and I'd been talking to him, and I'm saying, what's going on? And he goes, well, I'm doing this thing. You want to do it? And I was there. And actually, the first year that it was happening, I ended up rehearsing all of the guitars because some guys had trouble getting into town for the rehearsals and so forth.
Wow.
So I ended up rehearsing Doug Aldridge, Steve Stevens, Brad Whitford, everybody that played.
Wow.
So it was great. It was great to be able to, it's always cool to go on stage with guys, but the rehearsals are where you get to hang out and chit chat and laugh.
Wow, and that's cool that you were part of actually all 4 years that this has been going on.
Yes.
And now let me ask you, growing up, were you much of a Montrose fan? I mean, like a lot of us, was it that first album that really had an impact on you?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, maybe, 10 or so years ago, I was part of putting together a band that we never really took off, but it was a Montrose tribute called Rock the Nation.
Wow.
So, and especially when I was talking with Keith about it before he was putting it together and so forth, I told him, well, if you need a guy to rehearse these guys, I know the entire catalog, so
yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about this event that Keith's been putting on the last 4 years, because I'll tell you, like a lot of people, going back to the time of Ronnie's passing, like a lot of people, I was really only aware of those first two Montrose albums, and it was only after Ronnie's passing that I kind of went and kind of learned, he has actually other albums that he's put out. Oh, okay, it's more than just those two albums with Sammy. And so as great as those first two albums are, I think like this Ronnie Montrose Remembered concert that Keith's been put on every year, the last 4 or 5 years, it's not only does it keep Ronnie's memory and his musical legacy alive, but it shines a light on some of the other music people maybe didn't get a chance to hear before.
Oh, sure. Well, his work with Van Morrison and Edgar Winter, and he was a big studio guy, and he was already a famous guitarist in the circle.
Yeah.
In the circle of guys, and that's what really was able, his credibility was able to propel him to become a solo artist. And you don't name a band after yourself because you suck.
Yeah.
He was a badass, and people recognized that. So when the first record came out, it was pretty much no surprise to industry people who he had worked with.
Yeah. See, when I was only a toddler when the first album came out. I was born in 1971, so I'm a little dating myself there. But I discovered the music, all these years later, and I've always been a huge fan of the song "Free Ride." I had no idea until just a few years ago that Ronnie was the one that played on that. I thought, man, he did that. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that Sammy would go on to join Van Halen years later, because if you kind of think about it, Van Halen was kind of a blueprint for Montrose.
Oh yeah, no, you can tell Eddie's got some guitar work in there that is very reminiscent of Ronnie's approach.
Yeah, even down to the producer, Ted Tippelman,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And now I'm going to give you a little trivia here, Brad. See if you know this, because this is going back to that 1973 debut album. There's a cover on there that's not a Montrose original. Any idea what song that would be?
You got me.
Okay, Good Rockin' Tonight. Now, I bring this up because that's one tune on there that a lot of people really dig and have always loved. Now, doing
Great
research
song.
for this, come to find out, and you can look this up later, and you'll see it was actually originally a Elvis Presley tune. And if you go back and you listen to the Elvis version, Elvis's version was a much more of a rockabilly feel to it. Ronnie really rocked it up and made it his own.
Yeah. Actually, that's one of my favorite tunes to play, which I played this year.
Okay.
With Derek St. Holmes.
Oh, what was that like? Because Derek's one of those cats. He's been on the scene. Most people know him from Ted Nugent, of course, but he's equally talented guitar player as a singer. So he's the guy that, for anybody doesn't know, he's sang Stranglehold. That's probably what he's known most for.
Right.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if you know, on the second album, there's a song on there called Connection, which was originally a Stones tune.
Stones, which I got to play this year too.
Wow. And so
I was a stage hog this year. I got 10 songs.
Well, I guess as one of the probably few guys other than Keith St. John that's been involved in all 4 shows, you kind of got the seniority, so to speak. So let me ask you, is it Keith that kind of decides who's going to play together, or do you get to kind of pick which songs you want to do? How does that work?
Well, see, I'm a Sacramento guy, so I'm not part of the LA circle.
Oh, okay.
So and Y&T is a Bay Area, a San Francisco Bay Area band.
Yeah.
So like I said, and what I told Keith was, you know what, you get your guys, whoever wants to play whatever, have them play whatever, and I'll be the cleanup crew.
Yeah, okay, and that's cool because when you're a typical band, you're playing with the same guys all the time. So when you get to do a show like this, maybe some of the guys, are heroes of yours, and guys you've never played with, always wanted to play with. So that makes it much more fun of a event,
Oh yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to do it. Well, first of all, I mean, the music is great. Like I said, I had that tribute band, so I was already into it. And then to have the opportunity to play with some of my heroes, and like I said, the rehearsals. When Brad Whitford is sitting across the table from you, and we're laughing at the same joke. It's those are special moments that you just never forget, and to have the opportunity to do that and participate in a tribute to a rock hero who influenced so many different people, so many different guitarists. I hear Ronnie and so many different guys.
Yeah, and if you just look at the list of players that played, the event, it's amazing the span. I mean, you got guys from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. That's how many people Ronnie Montrose touched. As far as influenced them with his music. It's just amazing, And again, like I said, it's just I don't think. What do you think, Ron? Did you ever get a chance to meet Ronnie yourself or cross his paths?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, my buddies were basically his backup band with Keith was with Dan McNay on bass, Sacramento guy.
Yeah.
And Steve Brown on drums, which is Wild Mick Brown, the drummer from Dawkins, his younger brother, Steve Brown, who's from Oleander.
Wow.
And has done pre-production work with Tesla. So my boys were there.
Amazing. And it's interesting that Keith St. John would be one of the last singer that he ever worked with, in the sense that he kind of discovered Keith, I guess, and got helped him get his break. But if you look at I'm sure when you watch Keith perform on stage, you'll agree to what I'm about ready to say, which is, to me, he's kind of got that. He's got definitely his own vibe going, but he's kind of got that same energy that Sammy Hagar, had back in 1973 when Montrose was just starting out.
I'm doing Burning Rain now with Keith.
Yeah, yeah.
And Doug Aldridge and Blas Elias, the drummer from Slaughter.
Yeah, that's...
So, and Keith's definitely got his own swagger on
Yeah.
it, which I totally dig being on stage with him. You know, it's been cool, and it's fun to lock into a groove with him. And the thing is, even though he's singing and not playing an instrument, everybody's got a groove on stage. Everybody's got their own swagger, and him and I just seem to really gel.
And see,
and I'm you know, so doing the Montrose stuff that we're both in our wheelhouse. It's and now looking forward to the Burning Rain stuff. It's all good.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny you bring that up because I also know that you know, Keith St. John's a very talented guy. I know he's involved in some other projects. I was reading that he's also involved in a Zeppelin tribute that he's going to be putting on in a few weeks or some. But you know, the point is, he's got his own vibe, and as great as he is singing the Ronnie Montrose stuff and maybe the Zeppelin stuff, he's not trying to clone anybody. He's just paying respect. And what I also appreciate about a band like Burning Rain is that's his vehicle to also. Okay, I'm not just capable of, you know, singing the Montrose stuff. I have my own thing going as well.
He's definitely not a one-trick pony.
Yeah, yeah.
No, he's, like I said, Keith has his own thing, and it's great that his thing is comparable and really enhances the Montrose stuff. And you know, he's been singing with Kingdom Come.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, they did that recent tour, and they're going to be out playing here and there and so forth. They're doing the pre-show party for the Monsters of Rock cruise coming up here.
Wow.
What is that, in 3 weeks now?
Yeah.
And when Kingdom Come came through the Sacramento area, I went and saw him, and he was burning it down. And you know, and that's no easy trick.
Oh,
you know,
no.
that Kingdom Come stuff is in the upper registers and so forth.
Yeah.
And he handled it with ease.
And especially when you consider the original singer, Lenny Wuth, was this German guy who had a real deep accent, and you know, Keith's an American guy. You know, but he told me that actually Lenny Wuth, the original singer, his brother came to one of the shows recently, and he told him, "Hey man, you know, great job. That you did a great job filling in for my brother." You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I could totally see that.
Yeah, and you know, interesting you bring up the current lineup of Burning Rain, because I love the fact not just does Burning Rain now have Doug Aldridge and Keith St. John. They got you and Blas Elias. Now, Blas Elias has kind of been a little off the musical radar for the last several years. I mean, he's been playing Vegas, but he's kind of stayed in Vegas. And from what Keith's telling me, this first time he's really getting a chance to go back out on the road. So I think it's great that you guys got him and you. So how did you, like you said, you knew Keith. So was it just a matter of him calling up and saying, "Hey, we're doing this record. Do you want to come down and be part of it?" Or
that's exactly it. As a matter of fact, right before the Ronnie Montrose Remembered show last year, he said, "Hey, we're going to be recording." You know, the last Burning Rain record that was called Epic Obsession came out in 2013. So it's been a while.
Yeah,
so he goes, "Hey, Doug and I have been working on these songs, and we're just, you know, fine-tuning them, we're demoing up, and we'd like you to record the record with us." And which was like, you know, my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
It just came out of the blue.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is, now I was curious, when you joined up with Burning Rain, by the time you were involved, were the songs already written, or were you able to get involved with any of the writing?
They were in the 80 to 90% written thing. You know, it was all the basic ideas were there, but you know, in the last year and so forth, they've been refined lyrically, melodically, arrangements, and that kind of stuff. So all the main ideas were there, and you know, there were a bunch of songs to choose from. So it was about whittling them down to 11 songs and that whole process. So like I said, it was mostly written. All the ideas were, and then they play me the demos, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm totally in. Get me in now.
And so let me ask you, was it the process as far as recording, like they give you the demos and you had a few days to learn the songs and you go in and record the final versions with them?
What I did, what happened is everything got refined and so forth, and then they sent me the tracks.
Okay.
I recorded them remotely, and so we were discussing, how to approach it and so forth. But basically, Doug and Keith said, play what you want, have fun with it. And so I would send I sent the first couple of tracks that I did, which was I think Face the Music, which is the title track of the record, and I'm not sure which one else. And Doug immediately called back. He said, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing that."
Wow, that's cool. I mean, that is a modern way of making a record these days. Or
especially being a Sacramento guy. So I already knew the songs, and we had already discussed the approach of them and so forth. So I could just email tracks and get phone calls back, and like I said, on the first couple of tracks, there was like, well, why don't you try straightening this out here, or have more fun with it here, and after I sent the first couple of tracks, I just kept sending tracks, and it was just like, yes, keep going, yes, keep going, yes, keep going.
And the cool thing about that is, even though the songs are already written, that you're kind of getting to also put your influence in there, not just, it's more than just your bass playing. The fact that he tells, hey, kind of play off the tracks, but kind of do your own thing, and that's kind of cool that you get to have that kind of influence, as one of the new guys.
Yeah, like there's a cool, the opening track is called Revolution, which is just really aggressive, and in the chorus line it has a descending chord pattern.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so I tried and it's a double chorus. So the first half of the chorus I followed the guitar line down, and then the second half of the chorus I was moving up the scale to where I was still in the chord structure, but the guitar and the bass were separating while the vocal melody was holding it down, and it had a really cool vibe. And I was like thinking, well, we'll see how they like this.
Wow.
And there it is. You'll hear it when it comes out.
And now let me ask you. Have you got a chance to get together and rehearse with the guys? Because I do know you guys shot a video, so let's talk a little bit about the video and what was that like? Because it came out really cool. Was that like an all-day filming, or what was the process?
We actually shot that video and the title track, Face the Music, in the same day. We shot 2 videos in one day, which the videographer was just like, I've never done it. I've never done 2 in one day.
Wow.
We just busted through it and set up the scenes and so forth. Actually, Keith St. John really had a big hand in the visuals of it too, in setting how we were staging it and so forth, in that in the truss work that he's in, and so Keith has a really creative eye and so forth. He created the album cover.
Wow. Yeah.
So which is really getting a lot of positive response, and because it kind of goes off. The second track on the record is called Lorelei, and it's about a siren, leading the ships into the rocks.
Yeah.
And that's the album cover. The siren, overwhelming the captains and leading them to disaster.
Wow. And yeah. And
which what, I've had many women along the way do that same very thing.
Wow. And Burning Rain, like you said, this is going to be the band's 4th album. And the thing is, the band has gradually been building a following over the last several years. But I think with this lineup and this album, I think like you said, when you guys go and do some shows now, you got 4 albums worth of material to do, and the band, and like he was telling me, the band hasn't done a lot of touring yet, just because they've been involved with other things and stuff. So this year is supposed to be the chance for this band to really put their name out there. And it's going to be cool that you guys have 4 albums worth of material. And on that note, I got to ask you, have you had a chance to listen to any of the old albums, and what's the process been like for you as far as learning how to play older material?
Oh, it's been fine. It's what I do. Being a bass player, being a guitarist or a keyboardist or whatever, these guys can go out and play songs and play and sing themselves. But being a bassist, I need a band. I'm an ensemble player, so knowing songs and so forth, that's what I do. Yeah. You learn songs and you play them as a band and learn to gel with other guys. That was the cool thing about doing this Montrose stuff. We'd rehearse songs, we'd play them once or twice, and that was it. Wow. And then the next guy would come in. When you've got 20 guitarists and 2 days of rehearsal or 1 day of rehearsal, it's almost like the concert in itself. Okay, this guy's going to be here at 1:30. The next guy's going to be here at 2. Then 2:30, 3 o'clock. Bam, 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 bam. You just knock through it. And so when you're in that scenario, you have to have your shit together. So I try to always kind of come in. Well, not kind of. I try to come in as prepared as possible so I can have it down cold. So doing the Burning Rain stuff, I've already, got that backlog down. Now it's just a matter of picking what songs. And also, since the first 3 records were pretty much, a long time ago. The third, Epic Obsession was 6 years ago. Wow, yeah. And the 2 before that were in the earlier 2000s. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's been a slow building process, but you guys still, at this point, you really, from what Keith tells me, the plan is to really get out there and tour with this band and kind of make it really known in the U.S. who you guys are, which is a great thing. You got 4 albums worth of material, like you said, so maybe finally... with that, people start to really get to know the name Burning Rain. Right. And the thing is, too, is like with Epic Obsession, I'm just going to lay a lot on that because that was the most recent record. Yeah. It was a very diverse record as far as stylistically and so forth, and there was a lot of information crammed into that one. And I think with Face the Music coming up in March, it's a more focused band sound. Okay. I hate to really put a label on it, but when I was hearing the material, I was thinking, man, there's glimpses of early Aerosmith in there with a lot of 2-part vocals where the backing, where Keith is singing the main line, the main melody line during the verses, and there's a lower harmony under him, which that's a total, Steven Tyler and those guys really mastered that on that. So, which I'm really excited about because Keith and I in the every time we sing together, it just we kind of know where we're both going and so forth. So I'm really excited to get out there in a live scenario and sing with the guys. So it's not just playing bass, but it's the vocals too. And a lot of people fail to realize how important that is, that background vocal sound. I mean, another great example of that is Van Halen. Like if you look at what Michael Anthony. I was just going to say that. Mike Anthony is one of my biggest influences growing up. Yeah. Actually, my 2 biggest guys were Mike Anthony and Geddy Lee. Oh, wow. So they have different styles. Yeah. Geddy Lee, I heard my buddy gave me 2112, and it changed my life as far as playing bass, because he really pushed the envelope. And then I listened to Mike Anthony, and that guy is a train. He is chugging down the track like Mean Streak. Yeah. Come on. Come on. And the high vocals, the high harmonies, and so forth. So in growing up and so forth, I was always the guy who was on the top of the stack of backing vocals. I just did 4 shows with Dennis DeYoung. Their bassist got pneumonia.
Oh, wow.
So Dennis calls me on a Sunday morning while I'm mowing my lawn. Says, "Hey, can you be on a plane on Thursday?"
Oh, wow.
And he goes, "Well, yeah." He goes, "I don't need to burst your bubble, but anybody can play bass. Can you sing? Can you sing high?" And I told him, "I can sing anything you need."
Wow.
And the next weekend, I was doing the 40th anniversary of the Grand Illusion tour with him.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. So like I said, having Mike Anthony and Geddy Lee as like I said, my 2 biggest influences as far as playing and singing.
Wow. Well,
that kind of shaped me. And then here with the Burning Rain stuff, it's kind of cool because I'm going to be able to get down on the bottom side of the melody and kind of, put some nuts on it.
Yeah.
To give it a growl. And then in the choruses, there's some sky parts I'm going to be hitting too.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be a challenge and something new.
Wow, and another band that was great at that background vocal sound, Queen. I mean, practically every song they had, Roger and Brian would sing backing up Freddie, and you could hear every one of them singing. And I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody, that's a perfect example of, you hear all the vocal tracks, just amazing.
Yeah, I'm also doing a local project here in Northern California. I'm playing with David Victor, who was the singer for Boston for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And Tal Morris, who was the guitarist for Creedence, and Jeff Campitelli, who was the drummer for Joe Satriani for 20 years, who was voted the 50th greatest rock drummer of all time by Rolling Stones. So I get to play with those guys, and we're doing, and it's vocal heavy. So we're doing Kansas, Journey, Styx, and Queen.
Wow.
So yeah.
And David Victor, getting back to him, I think he was a singer on one of the lesser known Boston albums, Walk On, which. It's still got some pretty great stuff on there. It sounds like a lot like the classic Boston, but probably because Brad Delp wasn't on there, so a lot of people didn't check it out. But if you get a chance, it's a very strong album.
Oh, very strong record, and David is an amazing singer in his own right too.
Yeah.
We're playing some original tunes and so forth, and his vocals are crazy too, man. He's really, and a sweetheart of a guy.
And then the last guy I'm going to mention here, as far as a strong background vocalist that has a little semi-connection to you, Juan Crosier, the original bass player from Rat. Now, I just want to touch on that little part of your career for a minute, that you played with Bob Blotzer and his version of Rat. I mean, people were either a fan of it or not, but I will say, from a musician's point of view, you could probably attest to this, that that's a great catalog of music to be able to get up on stage and play.
I was there at the Sacramento Memorial Auditorium when Rat's manager, I think they were opening for Dio, when Rat's manager brought their gold record out on stage, when their record had just gone gold.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Juan was an influence too. Great showman, great vocalist. And his bass lines on all the Rat records, very, very melodic, but sitting right in the pocket. So, Juan might not be good with me.
No, I hear you. Well, the thing is, like, I will say this too. I'm a diehard fan of of the original band, and the thing is, like I'm saying, it's very sad because Rat is one of those bands. They could have been much bigger. I mean, they were big enough, but just because of the constant infighting that's still going on to this day, it didn't seem like it became what it could have been.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
it's a shame. It's a damn shame.
And what I will say about it is, what I will say about the Bobby Blotzer version, I'll say I'm not a huge Bobby Blotzer fan, but I will say. Like you and the other guys he got to play with them, it was a decent band, and I think, like we were saying with Queen, Rat's the type of band that they've got a great catalog of music. So if you can get a great group of musicians together, I think anybody will be able to play those tunes, and that's why I think you got the people coming to the shows to see you guys that you did, because it wasn't the original band, but that's a great catalog of music, and if you halfway decent musician, people are going to dig hearing it.
Well, here's my take on that whole thing. First of all, the guys in the band were monsters. I originally got the call from Mitch Perry, who played the Ronnie Montrose, remember? But he's, Edgar Winter, Talus, which was Billy Sheehan. The song "Shy Boy" by David Lee Roth.
Okay.
That's by Billy Sheehan. That's from Talus.
Talus, Talus.
Yeah, so that's why they cover it all the time and everything that Billy does, because that's his song.
Yeah.
And Mitch was Michael Schenker's guitarist. Mitch has been around the block, and I first started playing with Mitch in 2004 in a band called War and Peace with Jeff Pilson.
Oh yes, I remember.
And Mike Froen.
Wow.
And Jeff Pilson was lead singing and playing a badass gold top Les Paul.
Yeah.
And so playing with Mitch was great. So that's how I got the call from him. And then the other guitarist, Stacy Blades from LA Guns and that whole scene. And then Josh Allen was singing, and then he bowed out, and then Sean Nichols came in for the last gig that we were able to play together. It was a crushing band. The catalog, the Rat catalog, speaks for itself.
That's what I'm saying,
those are great songs, especially that first record was epic, and then they had on their subsequent records, there was some real strong tracks. So we were able to pull tracks from all those. You play a 16-song set of those. You can't go wrong. And you and I are in the industry, and we know who does what. But for the common man that listens to the radio, they don't give a shit who's in the band. They just want to hear the songs, and they want to hear the songs done well.
And as a guy that was
that was a thing that Bobby really emphasized, that Blotzer really wanted to do the songs justice, and that lineup of Rat, we'll call was amazing. And I've got to say, I'm very proud of going out and doing those songs justice, doing those songs the way they were done on the record. And I know the original version, with Steven and Juan and so forth, they're taking heat because of behavior and so forth. But and that's a damn shame in itself, because those songs to me are amazing, and to be able to play Juan's bass lines, and I played them note for note because they're great. So like I say, Juan might not be good with me for doing that, but I'm good with Juan.
There you go.
Because he's a badass. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Oh, there you go. And now let me ask you, as far as people coming to the show, would you say you guys were getting decent crowds?
We were getting amazing crowds.
Okay.
Well, what we were doing, we were mostly playing package deals. A lot of it was with we were a main support for Bret Michaels.
Okay.
And you know what? When you got a TV show called Rock of Love, and you're from Poison, from those, the places pack out. We were playing arenas. And it was badass. And also they were package deals, so we were playing with Warrant and Dawkins and Firehouse and everybody. It was great. So the thing is too, is I got to hang out backstage with buddies. Joey Allen. I had a band called Jet Red back in the late '80s.
Wow.
And we were searching for a guitarist, and we actually flew Joey Allen up to audition for the band, and he was a very strong contender but we had to really consider the logistics. You know, we were all kids, dead broke.
Wow.
And so we went with the Sacramento guy.
Yeah.
And just because, you know, it would have been just too much, you know, without moving the guy up. And then you know, but it was a great relationship. We're still close friends today. But, you know, and then we go look at MTV and there's Warren. Hey, that's Joey.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You know, getting back to the rap thing for a minute, you know, it kind of ended kind of the way it did as far as the other guys winning the rights to the name. Now,
It was messy.
My question is, like, did you guys ever approach Boster about, because a lot of people would go to shows and I'd read people say what a great band it was and how you guys played, you know, a great show and stuff. And was there ever any talk, hey, okay, Bob, we can't call it rap, but why don't we, you know, call it something else and go and do some original music? Was that ever an idea that came up, or just was never discussed?
Well, you know what, everybody was kind of in standby mode to see how things were going to pan out.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when you got a bunch of hot guns waiting around, those guns get picked up.
They got to pay bills, too. You got to make a living.
Yeah, or just they get offers, you know.
Yeah.
Stacy Blades has a crushing new band called Electric Radio Kings, based out of Vegas.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear that.
Yeah,
they have an album.
and the tracks are killer. And I just was hanging with Stacy at the NAMM show, and he's totally excited. They've got a new producer that came in, and so they've got a crushing product. So there you're going to see from Stacy Blades.
Yeah.
And Mitch Perry, he's playing with The Sweet.
Oh, wow.
You know, Ballroom Blitz and Fox on the Run, and he just recorded a solo project himself with some monster LA guys.
Oh, wow.
You know, and Sean Nichols is now the singer for Westfield Massacre.
I was going to ask you about that, if you had a chance to hear their album, because, you know, the amazing thing is, I've had a chance to talk to Sean. In fact, if you go on my website later, there's an interview with him. But the thing of it is people knew him for years for like, okay, he was a guy from Quiet Riot, he was a guy from Adler's Appetite, and then he did the Rat thing for one show. And then he gets together with this band Westfield Massacre. Hardcore metal, I mean, sounds nothing like any of those other bands he was previously in. And the great thing about it is, it's finally given him a vehicle to kind of shine a light on who he is. And if you know him from Adler's Appetite, it sounds nothing like that. But that's a great thing to it in itself, because he has the opportunity now to kind of do something fresh.
Yeah, and Sean is a bit of a chameleon.
Yeah.
You know, when you've got a voice like that, you know, he could pretty much sing anything.
Yeah, that's my point.
He could sing the phone book and crush it.
Yeah.
So like I said, you got a bunch of hot guns laying around. They're not going to be laying around for long.
Yeah. And it seems like you're a guy that's always like doing something. So I guess it's good to be a working musician in the sense that you're never really out of a gig too much.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been fortunate. Y&T opened a lot of doors for me, and you know, I like people, so I like to hang out with people. Some guys like to hide backstage. That's not me.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So you know, just getting out and about, and you know, and doing the Ronnie Montrose shows, and you know, forming that relationship with Keith. Yeah. Just kind of, you know, when he said, "Hey, you want to record the record?"
Yeah. And what I'm looking forward to is like we were saying, Keith St. John. He was the last vocalist that Ronnie Montrose really worked with, and he did a lot of touring with Ronnie. They did some writing for me, what he tells me, and recording. But a lot of it, all the stuff they recorded has never really officially been released yet. And he's telling me he's thinking about, you know, now or a few years down the line from now might be the time to think about releasing. So if some of that stuff comes out, that'd be a really cool thing for a fan. He'd also tell me that, like, these shows you guys were doing, the Ronnie Montrose Remembered shows, that he's got some stuff that he videotaped. So he's also toying with the idea of maybe putting together a DVD or something. That would be cool as well.
Yeah, and you it's just a matter of working out the logistics
Yeah.
and seeing how everybody's doing. It's funny because I had only really met Ronnie a few times, and we were acquaintances.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you what, he was always very kind and a warm person to speak with and so forth. But, it was at sound checks and that kind of crap.
Yeah.
So everybody's busy getting ready for it. And I'd rather be the guy that's kind of like, I don't want to get in somebody's face that doesn't know me.
Yeah.
If they want to chat with me, I'm all good. But I don't want to be the guy that's, hey Ronnie, and so forth. Since doing the Ronnie Montrose Remembered show, Lisa, his widow has been very involved in that, and she has, they do a scholarship for young musicians and so forth. Like J.J. Savage was the winner of the scholarship this year.
Yeah,
who I was able to play Paper Money with.
Oh wow!
This last Friday. It was me and Frank Hannon and Jason Hartless, the drummer from Ted Nugent, who was burning it down.
Wow.
Anyway, but so actually, Lisa and I have become close friends.
Cool.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. Her and her mother Linda. After my performance at Ultimate NAMM Night, the next night, which is at the Hilton and so forth. We sat together.
Wow.
And she's a sweetheart. So so Keith and her and the powers that be are working out the logistics of that stuff that Keith and Ronnie worked on together. So hopefully that's all going to get taken care of and get recorded the right way and add to Ronnie's legacy.
Yeah, one more word on that Montrose legacy. Did you get a chance to hear, that final album they put out a few years ago that Ricky Phillips and Eric Singer, I think, had a song?
I've heard some cuts off of that. Isn't it called 10
by
10 or
10 by 10. See, and the interesting thing is, I guess they had enough guitar parts from Ronnie before he had passed away that he'd put down. And so a 10 by 10, what it is 10 different singers with 10 different guitar players. So they got Ronnie's guitar parts and 10 different guitar players. They kind of edited on there, playing with
brilliant.
them.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it is, a lot of times when you have an album where there's like a different singer on every track, it really doesn't sound that cohesive. But I guess these guys, Ricky Phillips and Eric Singer, knew what they were doing, because if you put it on from start to finish, it just sounds like a Montrose album. The fact that you have a different singer on there it sounds like a really cohesive collection of tunes, which I think is hard to do, and they did a great job at that.
Yeah, I've heard several cuts off of it, and every one of them was like, wow, yep, this is Montrose.
Yeah. And before we wrap this up now, having encountered Ronnie a few times throughout your life, I got to ask you, even somebody who grew up on his music, how surprised were you when you first heard the news about his passing and the way he had passed?
I was shocked.
Yeah. I mean,
I was shocked, and like I said, his bass player and drummer Dan McNay and Steve Brown are close friends. I've known both of them. Actually, Steve Brown, in a band that I used to play called Jet Red back in the late 80s.
That's what you were just talking about, yeah.
Yes, Steve Brown was in the opening band.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And I walked in with my girl, and and I'm getting, and usually, you kind of, look at the opening band for a second, and then you go get ready and all that stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm gonna look at this guy, and I watched him for 3 songs, and I turned to her and I said, I'm stealing that guy tonight.
Wow.
And I pulled the total dick move, and I stole that guy from that band.
Wow.
And you know what? The band he was playing with were close pals too.
Wow.
and I didn't know Steve.
Yeah,
I didn't know Steve, but I knew the guys he was playing with.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but the guy is talented. So when I heard of Ronnie's passing, when that shock wore off, well, I shouldn't say wore off, but the next thought was to Steve and Dan going, "Oh, no!"
Yeah.
Because they were in a perfect spot. You know, they were
doing what they loved.
and they were crushing band.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, it was bad all the way around.
Yeah, I mean,
because
I remember
they had a thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was sitting in front of my computer screen and I read, you know, Ronnie Montrose and, you know, passes away or whatever. I'm like, no, I didn't read that right. And then, especially when I read, you know, suicide, I thought, oh wow.
You know what? That's the thing too. Is alcohol and depression.
Yeah.
And alcohol just exacerbates depression. Yeah. And you know, the reason I left Y&T was alcohol.
Oh wow.
And I was falling into that pit myself.
Well, at least you walked away from it before it got too deep.
Well, yeah, but the last 10 days of the last Y&T tour that I played on, I had a burning in the right side of my abdomen, the size of a pie plate, that would not go away. Wow. It was constant, and it was like it was like a firecracker. A sparkler was going off in my gullet. Wow. And being in that mode, in that headspace, I didn't say I got to stop drinking. Yeah. I said I got to get home. Because when I was home, I didn't drink. I had a liquor cabinet full of dusty bottles. Wow. But I got into that scenario, and it was a mission. And it always started after the show. Wow. So let me ask you, these days when you're at the meet and greets, people would come up with a cocktail, and we would, actually I drank shots. Oh wow. And I would drink whiskey shots. So the guys found out about it. Wow. So they'd come up with a shot for themselves and a shot for me. Yeah. And then I'd look over their shoulder and there'd be 6 more guys. Wow. And I couldn't say no. It kind of sneaks up on you. I mean, even getting back to Wrath for a minute, I mean, it's very sad that, like, I've read stuff about, Robin Crosby where he hid his drug addiction very well, and apparently what really killed him was just shooting up one time with heroin, and it gave him the AIDS, HIV, and it took 12 years to kill him, but it finally did, Right. Yeah. And even I understand. Yeah, and they didn't have the technology or the drugs to battle it back then. Yeah. And even Steven Adler, who he had somewhat of a successful comeback. He put out a great album with his band Adler. But I guess the thing with that was he always, even though his bandmates tried not to drink and stuff, there was still that temptation on the road. And so I guess these days when you're touring, do you still get that temptation, or are you able to fight it? Not at all. That's great. I realized that alcohol was poisoning me, and that's how I would get so sick the next day. Wow. From I'd be doing shots, just straight shots, and then all of a sudden, why is the sun up? Yeah. And then to go and then get a couple hours, 3 hours of sleep, and then go get on the tour bus. Yeah. I'd be wrecked. Wrecked. Wow. And it's one of those things where, oh God, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again. Ask you, besides, and then the first guy walks up with a shot. Besides for your health, I can really empathize with guys that are doing that. But nowadays, I walk into a bar and I walk straight up to the bar and lean on it in defiance. Oh, cool! I love that. Now, still got the rock and roll rebel in you. Now, let me ask you. Besides your health, did it ever get to a point where it was affecting your playing? Or hadn't reached that level? You know what? I never really drank before playing. Oh, I would have a cocktail or two, but there were a couple occasions that I got caught. I got caught up before. Yeah. And so So yeah, I wasn't as sharp as I wanted to be.
Okay, now before we wrap this up, getting back to Y&T for a minute, I've been reading that Dave McCaddy's been saying that he's been working on a documentary the last few years. Are you going to be featured in that when it comes out?
Well, yeah, we started filming it while I was still in the band.
Oh, okay, cool.
It was supposed to be out in like 18 months, and
Yeah.
here it's been
Yeah.
3 years since
Wow.
I've been out. So I think they've been, it's been in the works for 4 years.
Yeah.
I really don't know what the hell's going on with it.
Yeah.
I'd really love to see it because it really, the thing with Y&T is, they've been around so long and so many people have been a part of it. They brought in outside writers for this or different players, and Steph Burns was in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, from Alice Cooper's band, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it. But as a matter of fact, each band member did an interview, to kind of, see how their take on it. And so I did an interview while I was still in the band,
oh, cool.
And then I did an interview about 6 or 8 months later after being out of the band.
Wow,
and while I was, so I've been sober 3 years now.
Wow, and a thing I think about it is, I was reading a couple of the guys that the original members have actually died since they were filming this stuff. So I think a lot of that it might have to go back and update it with the people that have passed away.
Well, you know what? So I was originally called out on the road because Phil Kennemore, they diagnosed him with lung cancer out on the road, and they thought it was back trouble. And actually the cancer was eating his spine and his hip and his so it was attacking his bone structure. So so they called me on a Tuesday afternoon because they had canceled the gig that day and taken him to the team doctor in St. Louis for the St. Louis Cardinals because they knew the manager, Tony La Russa. And so he went to the team doctor and diagnosed him on the spot. So they're like, what do we do? So I got the call. They called a few guys and so forth. But everybody was busy. They called Phil's guys. Phil's like, I know this guy and this guy and this guy, and they were already out on the road. They were already, doing the thing. So Dave turns to Mike Vanderhule and John Nyman, the drummer and guitarist, and they go, "What do we do? Do they know you? You guys know anybody?" And Mike Vanderhule goes, "I know this guy Brad Lang." And John Nyman said, "That's who I was thinking."
Wow.
So they called me up, and Mike Vanderhule's like, I go, what are you calling me for? He goes, well, we're out on the road. I go, I know you're on the road. He goes, well, Phil's got back trouble, and we were wondering, yes.
Wow.
And he goes, you didn't even let me finish. I go, whatever you're about to say, it's yes.
Wow. Oh.
So they put me on a plane the next day at noon with 21 songs.
Wow.
That was Wednesday, and Thursday night we were playing in Madison, Wisconsin, a 2.5-hour set.
Wow, so when you did that first show with them, were a lot of the fans already knowing that Phil wasn't playing anymore with the band, or...
A lot of the fans had seen that they canceled the show on Tuesday night, and were like, "Oh no!"
Wow.
And so when I showed up, they're like, "Oh, thank you for being here. We thought we were going to get canceled on."
Wow.
And so that was, I was, scared to death.
Yeah.
And that Wednesday when they flew me in, they taxied me into Madison to the hotel, and that's where I meet Dave Meniketti.
Wow. And now let me ask you, because up until that point, in most of your life, you've been a working musician, but I'd imagine that would have been your biggest gig at that time. Would that be wrong in saying?
Actually, I had filled in for Jeff Pilson with Foreigner.
Oh, okay. Wow, wow.
So yeah, my first show with Foreigner, and that was when Jason Bonham was on drums.
Oh, cool, cool.
And we played the Art Park in Niagara Falls, which is a big open air amphitheater.
Okay.
And on the itinerary it said capacity 2,500.
Wow, wow.
And well, that was the seated area.
Yeah.
So we're taking the shuttle into the venue, and I'm chatting with Jason, and people look out the window and go, "Holy shit!"
Wow.
And there were the 2,500 was for the seated area, but the capacity was 20,000.
Wow, wow.
So my first a show with Foreigner in front of 20,000.
That's pretty big. That's pretty big in itself.
That was my first big break.
Wow, wow. And let me ask you, Brad, you're obviously known for being a bass player, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but did you always been a bass player, or did you start out like a lot of guys on the guitar and then switch to bass, or do you play both?
No. I played bass.
Okay.
I saw a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, Bruce Beck. He was in the 8th grade and I was in the 7th grade. He was playing bass for the Christmas program, and I was like, that is badass. I want to do that.
Wow.
So the next year, and the Christmas program came out, and I was in the 8th grade, I went and bought myself a bass. October 13th, I bought my first bass.
Oh, wow, wow. Now let me ask you.
And then we played the Christmas program, and I didn't pick up a guitar till 2005.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Now let me ask you, Tom Peterson, he's a great bass player from Cheap Trick. He's known for playing 12-string bass. Again, you're talking to a guy who's not a musician, but besides the number of strings, is that, is that much different from playing a typical bass?
Well, the thing with the 12-string bass is he's still playing a 4-string bass with 3 strings per string. It's a big
thicker
fat
sound.
regular bass string, and then 2 like guitar strings that are tuned an octave up. So that's what gives it that sound. I used to play for a while. I played in a band called Knockout, and I played a Kramer 8-string, a flame red cherry Kramer 8-string with the steel neck, with the forked headstock, and actually most guys play those with a pick, but I was playing it with fingers.
Oh wow!
And it was angry sounding, man, and I loved it. I still regret selling that bass.
I bet. Now let me ask you. Now you mentioned as far as singers like Geddy Lee and Michael Anthony, as far as background singers, those are guys in influence. But as far as bass playing, who would you say would be some of your all-time favorites?
John Paul Jones, Chris Squire.
Okay.
Paul McCartney.
Oh wow.
James Jamerson.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew up I was raised on radio. So there was a San Francisco station, KFRC, on AM radio.
Okay.
So I was raised on all that, Motown, Creedence, Three Dog Night. In this thing that I'm doing with David Victor, we do Shambhala by Three Dog Night.
Oh wow.
And so, whatever was on the radio, and back in those days too, the bass was really out front, especially in Motown songs. The bass line and the vocal line really carried the song, where the guitars were more of a background, kind of holding down the chord structure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Guitars would be going dee 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 dee, and then James Jamerson would be doing these walking bass lines that were like, yeah, baby.
Yeah, see, I dig that because, a lot of people probably think of you as a hard rock or metal guy, but the fact that you come from, such diverse influences, I would think would make you that much better of a musician, that much more, as opposed to a guy that just does nothing but metal. It also makes it easier to, that's why I think, for example, a guy like Mitch Perry, who you were talking about earlier, he can get gigs, playing with, Cher and Bobby Wexler and Edgar Winter.
Mitch was greatly influenced by Eric Johnson.
Wow.
Yeah, so which is one of the most fluid guitarists, and back to that, I'm not a metal guy.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean,
my first record was Led Zeppelin 2 that I bought at a garage sale next door to me when I was 6.
Yeah.
And I bought it for 25 cents, and I put that on, and it was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. I'm just saying, people see a guy that has long hair and that, and he does the tricks and the showman that you are on stage. Oh, this guy is a hard, he's in Y&T, he's a hard rock metal guy. But people have that perception, and that's, I mean, even I seen an interview years ago with John Lord, the keyboard player from Deep Purple, saying, people always say Deep Purple is they consider us heavy metal. No, we're classic rock. We might have been the very beginning of metal, but maybe we're the grandfathers, but no, we're not metal.
No, Deep Purple's not metal. They're a hard rock, and that's more my vein. Led Zeppelin. The Tubes were a big influence. In my early stuff, and then, but I was also into UFO. Pete Way. I saw Pete Way in Stockton opening for. It was UFO and shit. But I saw Pete Way on stage, and I went, I'm gonna be like that guy.
Yeah.
Because he was hanging his toes off the front of the stage, no fear, playing that white Thunderbird bass.
Yeah.
And the thing is too is one thing I'm on stage is I try to make eye contact with everybody that I can see. If I can see their eyes, I'm looking at them, and I try to go through everybody, because the thing is people come to a show to connect with the music, or else they just listen to the radio. But they want to connect with the band, and so a lot of these guys on stage, they're looking at their shoes, or they're looking at the neck of the guitar. Come on, look up. You're here you're here. That's why they call it a live show.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to a band like Deep Purple, especially the original lineup with like John Lord and Richie Blackmore. I mean, they were the ultimate jam band back in the day. They would be, if you go see the band live, they'd be jamming on one song for like 30 minutes, but the audience did not get bored. And anybody tells me, keyboards don't belong in rock, I say, you put on Deep Purple, see what John Lord did, man. Then you tell me that
with that B3 sound, that angry. Oh, he was wicked.
That's why, even Boston, I always love the Boston sound. They got they got every sound imaginable in there. It's you can't even name all the instrumentation they got in there. And you brought up Creedence Clearwater Revival. Again, I typically listen to hard rock and metal, but I'm one of these guys too. Like you take a band like Creedence, take a band like the Eagles. What made those bands so great is even all these years later, you listen to any of those songs, 40, 50 years later, they sound just as good, because it was not about having a band of 4 great-looking guys. They had the songs. That's why those songs still resonate.
It's all about the songs. Again, going out and doing the Rat catalog. I wasn't worried about people aren't gonna like it because we're not the original guys.
Yeah.
They want to hear the songs. Like I said, 90%. You and I are in the fold of we know names and so forth.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the people, they don't know names, and they don't give a shit, because they want to hear the songs done well. So that was one thing I was proud to go out and do that Rat catalog, even though it wasn't mine. Yeah. And the thing is playing in Y&T. Those weren't my songs. I just want to be a musician.
Yeah.
Players want to play.
Yeah.
I was in the school band, since 5th grade.
Yeah.
I didn't write those songs.
Yeah.
But I so looked forward to playing them. Any music class that they offered, I was there. Marching band, pep band, jazz band, orchestra, whatever. I had to take sophomore geometry as a senior in high school because I blew it off so long, but I needed it to graduate. So my geometry was my geometry teacher called everybody else by their by their last name, Mr. Warren and Mr. Smith, but she called me Bradley.
Wow,
because I didn't belong there, and she was going to let me know it.
Wow. But think about, Brad, what you're saying. Like, it's almost like you're an interpreter of the music. And, you grew up on it, and so you might not be an original guy, but you grew up listening to these songs, and now it's your chance to jump up on stage and play these tunes. And it's amazing. Talking about like bands like Rat and even Aerosmith, Creedence Clearwater. I mean, you got bands where these guys really hated each other, but there's something that you said. When you get in a situation like that, sometimes I guess the tension makes great music.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's another thing I want to say about why I'm so excited about doing this Burning Rain, because Doug Aldridge is one of the sweetest guys I've ever met, and Bloss is a really sweet guy, and just to be able to sit down and be able to hang with these guys. Like I said, I've known Keith for over 10 years now, and when we would go down and play the Canyon Club, we'd go over to the bar next door with the fire pit outside and hang out and chat until they kicked us out.
Wow,
I'm really stoked about that, because going on the road, I'm looking forward to not only playing the songs, and the thing is too is I didn't really get to write these songs 100%, but at least with this Burning Rain thing, that's me on the record. That's my stamp.
Yeah,
so
who
it makes
knows?
it that much more exciting to go out and be able to do that with guys that I already like. Usually there's one guy in the band you just want to smash his friggin' face.
Yeah,
that's not the case here.
And the thing of it is, like Burning Rain. Okay, like we said, they're gonna probably 4 albums worth of material now. You guys are the plan is to get out there and tour the rest of this year, and we've never toured before. So by the end of this year, next year, more people are gonna hopefully know the Burning Rain name, and you're part of the lineup now. And hopefully, if this album does what people are predicting it'll do or hoping it'll do, maybe you'll be part of the next Burning Rain album. Let's hope, And on that album, let's hope maybe you get a chance to be part of a creative process. We'll see.
Yeah, and actually, when we go out and do play, we're gonna lay heavily on this new record, Face the Music, because since so much of the catalog is so long ago, and like you said, some people know Burning Rain, but the majority don't.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go out and lay heavy on this record, and then play choice cuts from the previous records. There's a song called "Sex Machine," "My Lust, Your Fate," "The Cure." There's a song I want to play off of Epic Obsession called "Ride the Monkey," which they've never done live.
Wow!
And I'm telling you, we're gonna play it, because I'm not gonna let them get away without it.
And
because it's badass.
See, and the cool thing, like me as a fan, I'm excited to have Blas Elias back on the scene, because I was a huge Slaughter fan. But see, like you're saying, right now people are gonna Burning Rain. Oh, that's the guy that sang with Ronnie Montrose. That's the guy, Doug Aldridge, the guy from the Dead Daisies, and played with Dio. And Brad Lang, he was with Y&T. Oh, it's the guy from Slaughter. So you guys are gonna bring a lot of your own fans to this, and then people are going to be just surprised by, they put out 3 previous albums.
Right, exactly. And like I said, we're going to play some choice cuts from those, but I think it's going to be all about Face the Music, because the thing is, it's a strong record, and it's very focused. Like I said, Epic Obsession and the other records, they were kind of like
finding their identity.
Styles on those, where this is sounds real cohesive.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason for that is, they're finding their identity, so to speak, on the first 3 albums. You had a couple of guys come and go in and out of the band, and this is the latest lineup, so hopefully this will be the lineup to stick for a few years.
Yes, I certainly hope so. I'm really hoping that everybody's schedule is, Doug Aldridge is a hot commodity.
Dead Daisies especially.
And rightly so. So I'm hoping that between Bloss's schedule and Keith's and Doug's and everything, that we can really get out there. I'm in a unique position where I've kind of got all my ducks in a row, and I'm ready to jump into this and commit to this,
Well,
and where I can.
Well, good.
So
good for you.
that's what I'm going to do.
Good for you. And anyways, I talked to you all night. Obviously, I've done a pretty good job so far. But thanks for being part of our Remembering Ronnie Montrose. And do me a favor, Keith. Brad, because I've already interviewed Keith. A couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you got a chance to check that out. But in any event, when the Burning Rain CD does come out, I'd like to do a follow-up interview, kind of really specifically talk just about that, to really heavily promote that. So please keep my information. I'll keep yours, and we'll keep in touch. And I'll let you know when this goes up. I'm not exactly sure yet. I got a few more interviews to guys interview for this, but once I get all the interviews done, I'll let you know when it gets posted.
You've got my number.
Okay. Okay. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care.